too much. Day to day, we're chasing our lives away. What's it worth? Our lives. Are we human? Are we real? Have we agency? Is this the deal? See suffering all around. Try to send out love, keep our feet on the ground. Are we human? Are we real? I see colors when I feel songs in cartoon. I wrote one down to make this tune. And if that makes me crazy, well, it no longer hurts. I finally found our worth. Our worth is more than 1,000 stars, more than your planes and cars, more than a battlefield, more than your palace of steel. Our worth is less than 1,000 trees, less than the flies and bees, less than a mama's touch. We're passing through and not worth that much, that much, but we're worth so much, so much. Can I tell you a secret now? I don't really know how to talk to you today. What I really want to say is I love you and I see you and I feel your power and pain. I know that we're all winging it. I've no fuel for these games. Oh, are we human? Are we real? I see colors when I feel songs in cartoon. I wrote one down to make this two. If you get tired thinking that you're less than for a while, remember all the colors of your heart, your heart. And if you get tired thinking that you're less than for a while, remember all the colors of your heart, your heart, your heart. Our worth is more than 1,000 stars, more than your planes and cars, more than a battlefield, more than your palace of steel. Our worth is less than 1,000 trees, less than the flies and bees, less than a mama's touch. We're passing through and not worth that much, that much, but we're worth so much, so much. Ooh, ooh, there's more than 1,000 stars. Thank you. Give me a band of water as a symbol of our love, 'cause I'm like every woman, and water's more precious than gold. I don't want what our wedding band will bring. I want to sing of the joy that our love brings, not show it by a line in the pocket of a murderer. Mining mountains far away means people's water's poison for the rings we wear to say that love is here between us. Can we show it another way? Give me a band of water as a symbol of our love. You want luxury? Well, luxury's in the quality of our basic needs. Luxury's in the quality of our basic deeds. It's the sound of my baby dancing barefoot upon the ground. It's the feeling of your heartbeat in the eye of my mind. So give me a band of water as a symbol of our love. 'Cause I'm like every woman. Water's more precious, yeah, water's more precious than gold.
Little quickfire talks from Ranger people about some projects or some of the things that have been happening across London, or some of the things that you can get involved in.
The thing about gardens, of course, different from most other areas that London National Park City is involved in, is that they're private space. And yet, gardens account for about a quarter of London's total area, and front gardens in turn account for about a quarter of that. So it's a not insignificant amount of potentially green space. The major risks, and these are in the handout, so I'll just go through very quickly. Flooding, obviously. Overheating, as we've just seen, you're seriously increasing the heat island effect in a road and in the area. Loss of biodiversity, both from the loss of plants and from the soil being covered. Reduced food supply for pollinators. Front gardens are actually quite good when they're properly planted for pollinators. Increased air pollution, there's more dust, and no pollution absorbing vegetation. Water pollution, runoff of oil from vehicles and all the rest of it straight into the road drains. Less carbon dioxide absorption, of course, and the environmental damage brought about by the quarrying and the mining and the manufacturing of these things, or the paving and the Indian sandstone that presumably comes from India, which is highly fashionable at the moment, I might add. Subsidence, of course, if you're covering the soil, and the whole neighbourhood becomes quite unattractive, arguably unattractive. No green space, and we know that mental health problems are exacerbated by lack of green space.
This is to try and connect all the schools together, so be it nurseries, children's centres, primary schools, secondary schools. We want to try and get a big, massive network of schools so we can support them, greening their playtime, adding loose parts play to their playground equipment, getting them out into nature, into their local green spaces, starting up forest schools, starting up gardening clubs, that kind of thing. The school network will bring together organisations that will help the schools come together, get them outside. These include places like Learning Through Landscapes, who coordinate the school network scheme. There are other organisations that are joining by the day, and it's vitally important that our children, especially nowadays, get access to their local green spaces. They get to know their local parks, be it at home or be it by the school. Even if it's just a small space, we need to try and get as many children as possible outside accessing these vital resources.
Ultimately, we're here for one mission. We come from nature, we shall return to nature. Yeah, to reconnect, to reimagine, you want to call it, to realign, to make London greener, wilder, healthier. All these things we agree on. But doing something, we live in London, in what they call the United Kingdom. And the importance of that is to notice and to realize how much resources we have that go to waste. This is from food to the nature that we stand, the earth that we stand on, the nature that is around us. All these different things are resources that we can use to better society. And we have so much community, but unless we do something with that community, unless we start to engage and be involved, then the change never really happens. We leave it up to the government's support. But the real power comes from our ability to really make change.
Like, what the fungus is this thing. So, how from being a ranger to, being in this situation here. So, one of my passions have been for many years wild food, foraging, plants, mushrooms, and through joining London National Park City, I had the idea to set up the London Fungus Network, which is a project or a concept to connect people with the urban fungal kingdom or queendom. Because mushrooms, to be honest, in Britain, they have a bit of a bad rep. People see them and they think, are they going to kill me if I look at them the wrong way or get too close? So we're trying to change people's perceptions of fungi and also change people's perception. Once you learn about fungi, you start learning about nature. And, we're here talking about reconnecting and reimagining. So this is one way of imagining a mushroom. And learning about fungi is something which has, certainly helped me to reconnect with nature and reimagine myself and my place in nature. And so the London Fungus Network, the idea is to also be inspired by the mycelial networks and connect people to nature via the inspiration of fungi. So how do we do this? We run events like outdoor education, mushroom forays, where we take people into urban woodland to get to know their fungal neighbours. We also collaborate with mushroom cultivators, artists. So this sculpture here, Prototaxites, was created through a series of workshops that we run last October on Fungus Fortnight with two artists, Emily Stapleton Jeffress and Jack Alexandrov, who's here, and he's going to talk a bit about this, kind of slightly, people ask what on earth is it? So that's kind of what we want to do, is to get people to look at fungi in a different way.
We developed the idea by talking to some paleomycologists, which was really fun to speak to them. There's only like 5 in the world, so we spoke to 2 out of 5. They told us, we asked them, what does it look like? We want to make a sculpture of it, what should it look like? And they told us, well, that's what paleo artists do. They use the information we have and come up with how it looks. So we decided that it should be like a sex toy. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. No, so the original mushroom was about 9 meters tall. It lived, we don't know if this was their reproductive organ or if it also photosynthesized. I like to think it did photosynthesize because it died out around the same time as trees show up on the scene. But in the landscape it lived in, it was the biggest thing for miles around. The landscape was covered with them. It was a very barren landscape, and this mushroom, if it was a mushroom, ground down the soil, made the rocks into soil, made it possible for plants to live in it, connect all those plants together through mycelium networks, and allowed food for things that would then come out of the sea to eat. So it was a massive shaper of the natural world that we all take for granted now. But mushrooms, as Mike was saying, they stay in the ground, they're spooky, you only see them at autumn. So we wanted to make a kind of equivalent to when you walk into the Natural History Museum, you see the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and you kind of know what the natural world looked like millions of years ago. We want to do the same for mushrooms, and so Prototaxites is a sort of an attempt to replicate that feeling.
So essentially, Morden Park has a group of young people from 11 to 25. They're called the Urban Rangers. They have been there now for around 5 years. They were originally funded by the National Lottery Community Fund, alongside 31 other organisations. All to do with young people and engaging them in the environment, so that's always great. Through many different ways, whether that was housing projects or local parks or other green spaces. So we are a park, we have young people, we have generally between the amount of like 11 to 15 young people every single session, which is lovely. We run every other week, and we try and engage them with different elements of nature, whether that's in the rivers, doing forestry, or taking care of roses in our rose garden.
Simon Braben. I'm from Harrow Nature Conservation Forum, which is part of a charity that looks after natural and built environment of Harrow. I want to talk to you about a particular project we're running, which is in London's first ever wood meadow. And a wood meadow, in London there's been new meadows, there's been new woodland, but this is a combination of the two. So it's a woodland plus a wildflower meadow. And Harrow Council, we work in partnership with Harrow Council, and they've identified a park in Pinner called Pinner Recreation Ground, a very remote park. And basically we've taken half the park out of the normal 3-week mowing rota, and we've rotivated it. We've sown it twice with wildflower grass seed mixes, and we've done 2 planting sessions with local people, and we've involved a company called Zero Carbon Farms who grow food underground, and they sent 12 of their people to us, and they helped plant the trees, and they also did a litter pick in Pinner Recreation Ground. Great thanks to them. So it's a project that's still ongoing, so we've still got work to do.
The Orchard Project, we find and help restore and train communities to care for veteran orchards, and the best one in the world is in Harrow, Lady Gilbert's Orchard. It's over 100 years old, and they've got trees that no longer exist. So we've been taking what you call signs, so we can multiply that tree to send them down to the National Tree Collection, because they're dying to get hold of a couple of the trees. The other thing we do is with communities plant new orchards, and this year, we've got a partnership going with Innocent, who tell us they're going to fund 300 new orchards. But we're also UK-wise, so Scotland and Wales might get a few of them, but that's okay. But the other thing is, as I've said to Divya and a few of the core group of the new Bermondsey orchard that we've planted, is an orchard is the beginning of a food forest.
And so all of the incredible things, all the activities that we've been talking about, that have been mentioned in the various lightning talks, they're exactly the type of things we want to encourage and help more people be able to take up and do themselves. But how we get those skills out there and how we get people with the capacity and capability to do that, that's, I think, where the Rangers can really come in.